Hi, my friends. I have someone very special on here today. Her name is Liz Owens. I have been trying to get her on here for quite a while, so I'm so glad you're here, Liz. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, Amanda. Thanks for having me.
I know that today we are going to talk about a lot about like boundaries, mindset shifts, some expectations that you have as you are just creeping into perimenopause, but a lot of your community members have as well. But first, how about you just tell us a little bit something about yourself and what led you to being doing this and having your House of Worthship?
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. So, hi, everybody. I'm Liz. I'm the founder of House of Worthship. It is a virtual community for women of all ages. And generally speaking, it's a house of self-development. Now, self-development doesn't have an age group, doesn't have a hormone panel. It just is what it is. But for women, we are born into this world with so much expectation. I wanted to create a space for anyone who felt like they were not truly living the life that they were authoring for themselves. Like if you wake up and you're like, this is not what I thought it was going to be, right? To join this community, this sisterhood, where we can explore how the holistic self, mind, body, spirit, can start to learn to do things better when the basis of what women go through, I would say, is that we're not enough. We're
Mm.
born into that world feeling like self-worth has to be earned. And so that's really what I want to encourage is for every woman to feel like you were already born with all the shit you need.
Mm.
Oh, also, I have a mouth like a sailor, so if
No worries.
if that's a problem, please let me know. I'll try to censor it, but usually I let loose in my interviews. But I'm someone who's born and raised in Los Angeles. It's not an easy place to grow up. There's a lot of expectation on looks on I was raised by an entrepreneur father and a mother who's in special education, so I was always someone who had to perform well in school. A's all the time. You're not allowed to work. You go to summer school, you do all the things, you graduate, you go to college, you have the degree. And so there was always a lot of pressure. I had a lot of my own struggles with my self-worth, with my self-esteem, my confidence. And over time, I started to really start to rethink what life is supposed to look like for myself as well as for women. I'm someone who is married, however, married in later life. So I've only been married for 3 years. And I met my husband, just a few years before we got married. And I did not think I wanted to get married, but I definitely don't want children. So that's been something that's really set me apart, especially in the expectations of other women, I would say, and society at large. So the work that I do is specifically around behavioral patterns that we've inherited, specifically around expectations of others, of society, and then what pressure we put on ourselves.
Mm. Yeah, I felt a lot of that. So, definitely you had a journey getting there, and I thank you so much for creating this space and this community for people to go to. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
Um, we were just talking, and I said something about like, okay, so when you hit, or like when I hit my perimenopause, and I hear this from a lot of women, it kind of opens your eyes to the first half of your life compared to how you want to live the second half. And there is a lot less F's given with the sailor talk. Like you see your boundaries more clearly and your why for your boundaries come up. But how do you see this in the women that you work with, and what are some like maybe some tips or tools that you give them about setting boundaries? Because I feel like it's so hard. Just today I was talking to a friend about setting a boundary, and I'm like, I am turning 50 and I'm still like need that reinforcement, that help to set the boundaries. So how do you help women?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I always like to introduce, what we talk about in the house and my framework that I've used, in executive leadership in corporate space as and what I bring into the self-development space is called notice, ask, act. And this is a thought pattern loop that you can do from a tiny little conversation that you're having one-on-one or even with yourself, all the way through to major life decisions. But the point is, you cannot have intentional action without self-awareness first. And the problem that I see in a lot of my clients and our members and the kind of the base kind of client that I gravitate toward is someone who is very smart. We're all kind of looking at ourselves in a third eye view going, or a bird's eye view, right? Going, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why do you keep doing this? Right? We've
Mhm.
been here before. And when you're going through hormonal changes, you start that judgment, that self-judgment can be so much louder
Mhm.
because your entire identity, your body starts to betray you,
Mhm.
right? You're like, who I thought I was, everything about me and the relationships I've built, they're all changing and you're seeing things from a new perspective. And to your point, you give less fucks, right?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
like, okay, I've been doing this for so long. I am no longer in a place that I care because my body feels so out of whack right now that nothing you say is going to help me. I got to get away from you as soon as possible, right? So all
Mhm.
the little things that were bubbling up to the surface, the pan top is coming right off, right? You're just like you're steaming through and you've got to get it done. So self-awareness is the first thing. Now, even if you think you are super self-aware, the problem is the bridge to getting to the action.
Mhm.
Always everyone's action is going to be different, but a lot of us high achievers, especially, we get to a place where we think that we have to do a major overhaul. And that is never going to be the case. Our brains are wired to A, survive, which we all know, find the danger in the room. We're never going to be leading with like, "Ooh, yay." We're always going to walk into a room going, where am I in danger? Right. So the first thing you do is go to a kind of wrong side of the bed type of place.
Yeah.
And when you're going through these types of changes and you're feeling betrayed by yourself, that happens more quickly. So the first thing we need to do is notice where we are and where we are, not in location, like physical location,
Mhm.
is what is our body telling us right now? What's our nervous system doing? What thoughts are going through your mind? And how are you feeling connected to or disconnected from your own identity or spirit self or soul, however you think about those things, right?
Mhm.
And I implore everyone, especially in this stage, to let that sit for a minute. Because a lot of times we get there and we're like, okay, we know, I get it. I don't want to be here anymore. Let's start again. Hold on a second.
Mhm.
Acknowledge it. Let it just exist. That's okay. But then the ask stage has to happen before we can have intentional action. If we move to action, right? If we skip over that without the intention, it's impulse. And
Mhm.
it doesn't usually stick. So the second part of what our minds like to do is they like pattern and they like evidence, right? So when we start something new, if we make it too big, we're going to start to resist it, right? Because we're going to try it for a couple of days, like a diet, right? The yo-yo dieting. We overhaul everything. We get rid of a major food group or five major food groups. And then shortly after that, it's not sustainable. So, what is the smallest version of this grand idea that you can possibly get to? Something that is easy, bite-sized, manageable, enjoyable, even, right?
Mhm.
So, and again, everyone's action is going to look different. And because it's stemming from the particular moment that you're having. So for your boundary issue, right? You may
Mhm.
not have that immediately. You may not have the immediate action, but if you start to look at, okay, is this person, what is their, what are we noticing here? I'm triggered by X, Y, and Z that they're doing or saying. Okay, let's ask deeper questions. Where is that coming from? Is that an internal thing? Is that like, hey, I'm just having a moment right now, but really it's because I'm having a hormonal shift today and I'm hot flashing and I'm freaking out and my negative self-talk is super loud and it's this is for me to notice and the action actually is for yourself? Or
Mhm.
is this something that you're like, okay, this is a pattern. I've noticed this for 10 years. I'm just at my wit's end. And I'm now at a point where I don't need you in my life anymore. For boundaries specifically, I actually stole this from a friend and relationship coach named Jen Noble, but she refers to boundaries as bridges, not walls.
Mhm.
And I love that concept because it's just creating a little bit of distance rather than shutting someone off. And a lot of times in those moments, if we don't take a minute to notice and then ask before we act, that impulse is to just build the wall,
Mhm.
shut it out.
And that's hard. That feels
It
harder. Yeah.
really hard. That is where that emotional turmoil comes from. You're like, okay, well, now I have to cut this person out of my life.
Hmm.
That's not necessary,
Hmm.
right? So
Right.
what's a smaller step? What's the first I don't know, plank on the bridge? I don't even know like how you build a bridge, but what does that first block look like?
Yeah.
And then, what are those steps? And maybe it's just you build a small gap
Hmm.
and it's just a one-step bridge, and then you see how that goes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But hard conversations have to happen. And if we want to get into hard conversations, I'm happy to do that too. But that's the advice I would have just starting off. And I know that sounds really broad in general, but everyone's version of this is going to look different. But notice, ask, act is going to be a through line everywhere you go.
Yeah. No, I like it broad because just like having that wall being built, that seems very permanent and it seems really hard. And it feels like if you have, say, like if this is with a friend that you've had for a really long time, like you mentioned, like cutting them out doesn't seem realistic and it is going to hurt both sides of the party. But if I can say, what is this feeling I get? Like when they asked me this question, when they wanted to meet up, whatever, like, let me take some time and really analyze that in my body. And
Mhm.
maybe instead of doing this one ask, we try something else or, just having it be a little bit smaller. So I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And never doubt the power of an open-ended question and being curious. Because I think a lot of us, when we say we have to build a boundary, we have to have a hard conversation, it's going to be hard for us. And
Hmm.
yes, it'll be hard for the other person, but how can we make it less hard for all of us? If we put ourselves into a peaceful mindset prior to having this conversation, if we take it off the phone and into, a verbal conversation or a virtual or an in-person, it always feels a little easier. It's scarier because you're right there, but um, it's actually, it removes this fake curtain,
Yeah.
um, and it puts your emotional state in front of them,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Because they can't make assumptions about how you're saying this if you're saying it with the intonation right in person or on the
Yeah.
phone or on Zoom or whatever it is. I had to have a conversation like this with a friend several years ago.
Hmm.
And it was just, hey, this is how that action made me feel. And I
Hmm.
just wanted to put this out there for you. Um, and you'll know immediately if this person is going to be open to having an open feedback conversation, especially people you've known your whole life. If you are moving at a different rate or if you're in a different stage and they're not there yet, or they've not done the work for themselves,
Hmm.
it may be a moment where that bridge needs to be a little bit longer. And
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah. Because they might get there, and maybe they won't, but that's all right. But if you have the bridge, at least you aren't cutting them out of your lives.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to have some distance for yourself to heal, to get some peace, to move on. And you'll know that bridge can always exist, right? Like you can always get back to it.
Hmm.
And I've seen this person. We have mutual friends. We've known each other a long time, like 20 plus years.
Hmm.
And it's we pass each other at events and things like that, and we're peaceful.
Yeah.
But from my end, my life isn't missing something because that friendship's not there anymore. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? And that says a lot as you start to move through your life. And as we get older, you need a community of people who are going through what you're going through or having the or have had experiences that you have had or are having, so you don't feel like you're crazy.
Yeah. Yes.
Honestly,
Hmm.
or alone.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah. And both of those tie together. Often when you are feeling so alone, you're also feeling like, is it me? Am I crazy? And I think, especially when you hit perimenopause and you have symptoms coming at you left and right, and you don't really understand what they're all about, it's very good to be able to talk to other women that are in that stage and understand what's going on, or don't understand, but they're like, yeah, I'm having this weird thing happen too. So
Uh,
I get that.
100%. And look, we go through several hormonal shifts as
Hmm.
women.
Yeah.
Um, and even, when you deal with PCOS or something else, like there's all these different versions of what that looks like. So, I would never want anyone to feel like their journey is theirs alone to hold and carry.
Hmm.
Start talking to people. You'd be shocked what similarities in story you can have. Now, it's one of those dangerous things as well when you get into circles of people who want to relate to you. And what you need is a place to like vent and open up, and they're almost bogarting the story because they're like, "Oh, I went through that. Oh, this was my story." And you're like, "Wait, wait, wait. I'm not done with my story yet, right?" So, and those are again, those can be upsetting spaces to be in too when you don't have a place to really just empty out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some friendships feel like that, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think finding communities like yours where also you can tell your story, but also there is like a that self-development piece that goes with it. So we aren't just like getting it all out on the table and letting it like ruminate. We are actually like, this is my story, and then this is how I can rise above it. This is how I can learn a lesson from it. This is how we can come together and make something positive out of it. Not trying to be like positively toxic, but like that's my thing is like I need to also be around women that get me and share their stories, but also, help me further my life because I want to go further in life.
Absolutely. And that part that you're talking about, that's so important is the accountability part with each other. It's not just to show up, but to encourage each other and support each other to take the intentional action. Because as much as our brains want the tiny pieces that they can nom 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 nom, they're like, "Ooh, yeah, it gets easier every time you do it." It also gets harder the more you resist it. Because if you are you're then telling your brain, I don't want to do this. So the next time you attempt it, it's harder to do. And so when you have a community or a coach, that's where the self-awareness to action starts to take hold
Mhm.
because you're not by yourself trying to make it all work. You're someplace where I've kind of referred to House of Worship in moments of like class pass meets AA, because we get exposure to a bunch of different modalities where we're working with different experts every single month to learn how all of our areas of life and all of our being kind of can start to um, kind of curate your tool belt, so to speak.
Yeah.
But then there's the accountability measure. And sometimes, I don't know if you have experience with AA. I've had a lot of experience with it from an outsider's perspective. I dated someone who was deep into Al-Anon, and so I'm very familiar with it. And I've also had friends in and out. But the idea is you just show up. And even if you don't get on the podium, or even if you've relapsed and you're just back in your first hour of sobriety, you show up for the group, and the group is there to support you, right? Even if you don't share during the workshop, you're not active, you're not participating. I don't care. Like, be a lurker. You just get to be held.
Mm. Yeah, I like that image of being held. Yeah. Um, that brings me to something that you brought up earlier too, and that is having your worth, because you can still be, this is something that I still deal with even as I get older, like feeling worthy enough. And you said you talk about this with your communities as well. It definitely goes along with like boundaries, but like, women in their 40s and their 50s, and we are still trying to feel worthy. Tell us about that and how we can help ourselves.
So this is interesting because when you're going through perimenopause, it's also usually at a time when, depending on when or if you've had kids, right? They're going through their hormonal shifts maybe, right? So you're all going through it at the same time. Also, 30s to 50s, depending on the age of your parents. My parents were older when they had me, so my parents are aging and getting to a point where I'm caring for them. You For the millennials out there, career shifting is massive everywhere. There's no stability. There's no corporate ladder that we're climbing anymore. So I mean, I'm in an apartment with a roommate and a husband, right? Like, affordability is terrifying. The stressors of adulting are happening every day and every stage of your life, and you have to deal with this hormonal stuff, right? So your identity is so shifting. And again, that self-judgment, and you probably already at a point where you've been living a life, and maybe this is opening up something in you. Maybe you are saying, I've not authored my own life. And that's where I find a lot of the clients that come to me at that age group is they've had this shift. They're like, I have no more fucks to give. I like, how did this life happen to me? And usually it goes back to the story of not feeling worthy and building a life based on other people's or society's expectations of what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of that manifests in different ways for everyone. For me, it was perfectionism. It's performing at work. It's making sure I'm always the fixer in my relationships. A lot of women feel this way, and it's because we pop out of a hoo-ha and we're like, and society goes, this is what a woman's supposed to feel, and this is what a woman's supposed to do, and you're supposed to have children, and you're supposed to have everyone's lunch ready at 6 a.m., and you're supposed to never take care of yourself, and you're supposed to look haggard and also amazing at the same time, and you're supposed to also have a full-time job when you are supposed to hire a nanny, but your full-time job's actually paying for the nanny, so really you could be at home with your kids, but then people judge you for being a housewife. There's just this whole cyclical environment that is created around us, and that the and perimenopause is a crux that I think really cracks us open.
Hmm.
And it is a moment that we get to say, what do I want in my life? And how has feeling undeserving of the life I want led me here?
Yeah. Yeah. It's really eye-opening. And I think it can be very powerful. Like it can be a powerful time and it can be a time where you really step into yourself. But I think having someone like you, having a coach, having a community is key for that because you aren't alone when you do it. It can be very hard and it takes a certain person to be like, I'm going to step into this all by myself. But when you reach out and you have the community or you have the coach, that can be
Mhm.
so like eye-opening and just the support that you need to be held,
Yeah.
like you said. Uh-huh.
Absolutely. And sometimes you just need the acknowledgement, right?
Mhm.
But my superpower in my coaching and why I call myself a behavioral strategist rather than just a life coach,
Yeah.
because I am certified that way, but I don't I that it's such a broad term, um, is that I love listening actively with the women I work with and picking up on ways they talk about themselves that they're not aware of. So each session, there's usually a point where, someone is emptying out, they're telling me about something. I'm like, okay, like tell me more about that part. And then they lean in and I'm like, all right, so do you realize you just said this? And they go, oh, no. Oh my God, right? If you just give yourself a minute to work a little bit deeper, but it's very difficult to do by yourself. You don't hear it
Yeah.
until somebody has to point it back to you, right? Someone mirrors you, most of the time they go, "No, I didn't. I didn't say that." And I'm like, "Yes, you verbatim said that. Do you want to go back to the tape?" Right now, you said, "I feel like a failure." And I'm like, "What?" Or like, "I'm a loser if." And I'm like, "Wait a second. Where's that word coming from?" Right?
Mm.
And then like let's extrapolate that. Let's like pull it out. What are we doing with this word? Why is this word here?
Mhm.
And it is usually always leads back to a feeling of self-worth. It
Mhm.
is like 9 times out of 10,
Yeah.
a self-worth thing.
Yeah. And stories that we just have ingrained in us that we don't even know that is our story or that we think of ourselves like that.
Hmm.
Yeah. And having that second perspective to, like you said, mirror it really helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fascinating because once you unlock the deeper reasoning for the negative self-talk,
Mm.
you can challenge it. You can acknowledge it and say, "Thank you, you've been protecting me." Because usually these default patterns, these default modes that I talk about, they were created to help you survive, right? In the new modern world. We don't have lions, we've got parents and we've got siblings and we've got bosses and we've got friends, and we have to kind of build it up as we go. And we've been modeled a certain way to behave, then we watch others, and we kind of develop our own version of it. And all of it was built for you to survive in the environments you were in.
Mm.
And that's absolutely amazing. The
Mhm.
fact that our minds and bodies get us here to this moment in all the crazy shit that we all have to deal with, is awesome. And thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you, mind, for getting me here and doing all these things to help me survive. I don't need you to do this anymore.
Mhm. Yeah. And so it's almost like that bridge with yourself, like having that same bridge with yourself. What I'm
Yes.
taking away, let me know if I'm right, is like taking that time to like sit with whatever feeling it is, whatever thought you're having, being able to ask your questions about like, where is this coming from? And how can I build a bridge to that next step that I can take, whether
Yes.
it's with your friends or with yourself, wherever it may be.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. You've
Oh,
absolutely
love
nailed
it.
it. Notice, ask, act, everybody. Heard first by Amanda. Love it.
No, yep, that is yours. I love it. So you have your house of worship, you have your coaching. Is there anything else that you want to talk about and share with us?
Um, Honestly, those are the big
Yeah.
things that I do. I am going to launch a group program later in the year, my first cohort, and that is going to be a lot more intensive than our community. So the community itself is 2 live sessions a month. It's the containers held on Circle. The first live session's always a topic, a group topic for us to come to the table with. I lead it. It's not, there's no agenda. It's really like the one that's coming up on the 11th. It's right now the events are on Saturdays, but we are going to move to weekdays because I know Saturdays are tough, especially this summer for all my ladies. The next one is pleasure, play, and permission to want more. And so that's just group discussion. And I do a little bit of group coaching. So whomever comes and they have things they want to bring to the table, or sometimes they're like, I don't know, I just showed up and I'm like, great. I'll ask a question. Let's go. What are your thoughts here? And the conversation again usually gets back to a place where we're talking about self-worth and deserving what we need. And then the second session is a modality workshop. I bring in an expert in that field. So July's is happening the last week of July. Date to be determined, dependent on everyone's availability. But it's led by Van Lydemone, and she is an expert in the corporate space, bringing teams into creative play and curiosity. And so it's going to be super interactive. Now, every month looks different. So the topic is different, the expert is different. And then the accountability measure is really just having the space in Circle for us to be able to engage with each other post workshop and say, okay, what are we taking away? And every workshop, we're left with an action to walk away with. I was so tired of going to workshops and feeling great with like a notebook full of notes. And then 4 days later, I'm like, okay, that's on my wall. I'm never
Hmm.
going back to it again. I'm exactly the same. I felt inspired for 4 days and now I'm like, do, 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 do. So that is something I really truly wanted to build. And then the group cohort will be much more intentional, intensive, group work in coaching, also attending the live workshop so they have the ability to use the modalities in their self-work. And then, of course, there's one-on-one coaching. So for anyone who wants just a little bit more customized space, and we go much more deep and we help you achieve, me, help you achieve the goals that you're looking for, but really it's less about the actions, the tasks to get to your goal and more about how you feel about yourself when you get there.
Mm. Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. I think just taking away that building a bridge is such a huge thing for me and my audience. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
I'll have everything linked below. And yeah, thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yes. And anyone who is looking for a little bit of this self-development, come grab me on Instagram, DM me, start a conversation, and I'm happy to jump on a connect call.
Awesome. One last question I ask everybody who comes on here
Mhm.
is how do you nurture yourself? My podcast is called Nurture Herself, and it's about taking care of yourself. What is something that maybe you do every day to take care of yourself?
That's a great question. It's something so small because again, I've added little things, but my morning routine is my sanctity in the morning, and the probably top 3 things I do before I even leave my bedroom is I wake up, I do a just internal um, gratitude moment for waking up in my best timeline and thanking the universe, source, whoever that is. Just internally, it kind of sets me up. I put my feet outside the bed onto the ground. I take 3 deep breaths
Yeah.
just to feel like the feel of the my feet on the floor and to just get in my body. And the last thing is I make my bed. And
Yeah.
that sounds crazy, but it's one accomplishment. It makes my brain feel so much cleaner and more organized when I walk in my space. And it just helps me set up for the day.
Oh, I love that. I love the I love all three, but the gratitude in the morning is definitely amazing. I know, just sharing really quickly, I used to just like hop out of bed, and now I have a couple dogs that share my bed with me. And so I have trained them in the morning that when I open my eyes to come like snuggle with me. And man, that just fills me with so much joy before I even start my day. So I'm like,
Oh,
yeah,
I
it's
love
a thing.
that. Just unconditional love first thing.
Yeah,
Yes. I
right?
want that. That sounds great. If my husband tries to touch me in the morning, I'm like, get off me.
Yeah, no, it's my dogs.
Yeah, I'm
It's
like,
not
I
my
want my cats to do that, but they hate it. They're like, oh, give me space, woman.
Yeah, my cats never did that.
Amanda, thank you
I
so
love it.
much for this. This was lovely. This was great
Thank-
conversation.
Definitely. And thank you all for listening. Like I always say, choose yourself. I love you, and we will talk soon.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.